Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Time to start the show. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Oh, echo. Time to start. Okay, no more echo. All right. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Muy bien. ¿Y tú qué tal? Hola, ¿cómo estás? Muy bien. Okay, anyway. All right. Wakey. Have that coffee. Starbucks. Today we're doing property ownership. So much fun. Who could tell me what are the bundle of rights? Bundle of rights. Let's start off with that question. Let's see who's listening. Bundle of rights. What are the bundle of rights? The right to use, possess, to encumber, to dispose, anything you want with it, it's yours. What's something you cannot do with that property? Well, let me ask you this. The property is limited by who? That's a better way to ask that. You could do whatever you want, but there's somebody who could step in and be like, I'm doing what I want. And that would be the government. That's why they can make you pay those taxes. What's the abbreviation for the things they could do? What could they do? What's the acronym for the government powers? Who knows? Pete. And what does Pete stand for? Pete stands for police power, eminent domain, taxation, and escheat. Police power, eminent domain, taxation, and escheat. And that's how you know that even have the bundle of rights. Your rights are not all empowering because you're still limited by the government. Police power, eminent domain, taxation, and escheat. Who could tell me the basic difference between police power and eminent domain? Who could tell me the difference between police power and eminent domain? Anybody? Police power and eminent domain. Who could tell me? Give you a hint. My money don't jiggle. It folds. Anybody know that song? My money don't jiggle. It folds. Money. Eminent domain. They give you just compensation because they could take the property away through a process called, who knows what that process is called? So eminent domain, they could take the property away through the process of condemnation. Just think, your property's condemned. What does it mean if property's condemned? It means you can't use it anymore. Right? When something's condemned, it means you can't use it. Somebody's like, yeah, I never thought of it that way. Yup. So they give you money for it because just compensation must be paid. And if they don't, you could file a lawsuit, and that's called, who knows? Inverse condemnation. And that's eminent domain. Whereas police power, they don't take your property away from you. They just tell you how to use it. Who can give me an example of police power as it pertains to the real estate exam? Anybody? So, building codes, rent control, zoning. These are all examples. All right, guys, let's move on to the board. So that was a nice little intro. Hopefully some of you guys got something from that. But let's move on to the board. Personal property can be A, turned into real property, alienated or hypothecated. B, turned into real property. C, hypothecated. Or D, alienated. What are building codes? They're rules on what you could do with the property, like how there has to be handrails and stairs and things like this. Okay, and the answer is A. Could have done all those things. By the way, you guys see how personal property is highlighted? Well, in the prep agent program, if you guys don't know, when it's highlighted, it means you could click on it and it gives the definition. How many guys are like, what? Mind blown. That's amazing. How many guys didn't know that? You know, it's highlighted, it means it's clickable. So you can see the definition. Okay. Who here could tell me what is personal property? What is personal property? Anybody? What is personal property? Anybody? 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 Christine says movable. Ethan says chattel. Okay. I like to say it like this. Everybody ready? Personal property can go with the person. Real property goes with the real estate. Why do I say it like that? Because sometimes there's things that are personal that you can't physically move so easily. And sometimes there's things that are real property that are super easy to move, like a pool covering or a set of keys. The difference is real property goes with the real estate, personal property goes with the person. Okay? And that'll help you when you start talking about crops and certain lease contracts. If you just remember, personal property goes with the person and real property goes with the real estate. And what I mean by that is when you sell a property, the personal property goes and the real property stays. Excuse me, don't worry, I'm wearing a mask. Okay, so personal property goes to the person. And this is helpful if you guys understand this, because if I say, is a lease personal or real property, what would you guys say? If I said a lease is personal or real property, what would you guys say? What do you guys think? A lease is personal or real property? A lease is personal property because it goes with the person. I know it's easy to say it's a lease is a piece of paper and piece of paper removable, but come on, who does that anymore? Welcome to the modern era, Mrs. Flintstone. DocuSign, all that kind of stuff, right? Here's how you know. When you have a lease, okay, does it begin when a property is bought or sold? And does it end when the property is bought and sold? Does the beginning and end of a lease coordinate with the sale and the purchase of a contract? What do you guys think? Obviously, no. People buy property, and in the determine their ownership, they start leases and end leases all the time, correct? And that is because the leases don't go with the property. They're contracts with the person, and therefore it's personal property. Everybody got that? Say, got it. Now, I would like you guys to give me an example of real property that's really easy to move, that you could pick up and move it just with you and your buddies or just you by yourself. Give me an example of real property that you can move pretty easily. Who could do that? You can move a tree pretty easily. I got to work out with you. So tables are personal property. Furniture can be personal, but keys is a good example. Because keys is something that goes with the property. A pool covering. A lot of you guys, I'm a little worried because you're saying things like TVs and all that. That's not real property. That's personal property. A good example of something that's real property that could be easily moved is a pool covering, because the pool covering is with that property. Maybe some window decorations that go with that window. Keys obviously go with the door to that property. Garage door opener. You get the idea. And I'm trying to emphasize the point that don't get too caught up with this idea of Real property is immovable and personal property is movable. Okay. Can real property become personal property? Can real property become personal property? What do you guys think? Yes, William says. Nice job. So one of you guys said a tree. Is a tree real property or personal property? Nice job. Taylor said severance. She's been studying. Cheat off her paper. No, don't cheat. Unless nobody knows. No, don't do that. Okay, is a tree real property or personal property? Real. Now you kick that tree over and it's laying on the lawn. Is it personal or real now? And now it's personal. Now you take the wood from that tree and you build a beautiful fence. Is that fence personal or real now? It's real. And you get the idea how it goes from personal, real to personal. Things could change their status. And somebody mentioned the word severance. Good. Now, can personal property become real property? Can personal property become real property? What do you guys think? Annexation. Nice job, Stacy. Stacy. Everybody deserves to have their name chanted once in a while, right? Okay. Yes. And that is called a... Somebody said it? Fixture. A fixture is something that's incorporated into the land. What is the test for a fixture? Nice job, Shantae Smith. Annexation. Good word. What is the test for a fixture? Maria. And what does Maria stand for? Who knows? Maria. Maria stands for method, adaptability, relationship, intention, and agreement. Good. If you look at a purchase contract, usually on the second page, it has the agreement part where you write in what comes and goes with the property. If nobody writes anything, the court would go with those other things: the method, the adaptability, the relationship, and the intention. Nice job, everybody. So is a fixture personal or real property? Is a fixture personal or real property? A fixture is real property. It goes with the land. What if it's used for a business, like a dentist chair or a pizza oven? That's a trade fixture. Trade fixture is personal. Good. Good stuff, everybody. I hope you guys don't mind me teaching this way. This is what I do. If you don't like it, don't worry. We got some other teachers do the webinars as well, and maybe one of their styles will work for you. We try and create options. Okay, let's go on to another question. Thanks, Stacy. You're a great student. Which of the following types of tenancies refers to ownership of real property? A, tenancy at sufferance. B, tenancy for years. C, tenancy in common, or D, tenancy at will? What do you guys think? And the answer is tenancy in common. I apologize if you hear any noise in the background. That's my kid bothering my dogs. Poor Flaca and Gordo. It's my dog's names, Flaca and Gordo. If you guys don't speak Spanish, that literally means my dog's name is fat and skinny. Okay. Tenancy in common. So you got different types of estates, right? You have freehold estates and less than freehold estates. Freehold estates and less than freehold estates. Okay? So, what are the types of less than freehold estates that you guys learn when studying for the real estate exam? What do you guys think? Estate for years, estate at will, estate at sufferance, right? So you have estate for years, periodic tenancy, estate for a will, and estate at sufferance. These are less than freehold estates. You may call them more commonly known as leases, right? A tenancy in common is a type of ownership. That's when we start talking about joint tenancy and tenancy in common. That's ownership. So this question says, which of the following applies to ownership? That'd be tenancy in common. The rest are types of leases. Is everybody got that? Right, got it, Joe. So let's go through them. What is a tenancy at sufferance? That first one. What's a tenancy at sufferance? Anybody know? Who could tell me what a tenancy in sufferance is? A deadbeat tenant. It's somebody who's in your property and hasn't paid. I just heard the story of somebody who rented Airbnb to a person, and they were in there a year and a half without paying, and they wouldn't leave. It's crazy that people could get away with that. So that's a deadbeat tenant. Okay? Yeah, there's some crazy stories of trying to get people out. Not as simple as you'd like. Not to scare anybody from having income property. I'm just saying, you got to be aware. Okay, so that's a deadbeat tenant, tenancy and sufferance. The landlord is suffering, if you want to think of it that way. What's a tenancy for years, also known as a estate for years? What's that one? What do you think? What's a tenancy for years? So that's for a defined period of time. It's kind of like what the Airbnb is supposed to be. You're here from this time to that time, you're gone. Like if you rent it for the summer, Memorial Day to Labor Day, you're out. For an estate for years, no notice is needed because you gave notice the moment you moved in. It's a defined period of time. A periodic tenancy is reoccurring, like week to week or month to month. A tenancy at will means anything can be ended at any time. Okay? Now, on the board, the answer was tenancy in common. What is that? What is a tenancy in common? What do you guys think? What is a tenancy in common? So tenancy in common, all right, first of all, is it a type of concurrent estate or ownership in severalty? What are you guys saying? Let's start with that. Is it a type of concurrent estate or an ownership in severalty? It's concurrent. Nice job, Diana the Don. Love the name, by the way. Okay, so it's concurrent. Concurrent means you own it with other people. Severalty is when you own something by yourself. We basically study for the exam 2 types of concurrent estates. Joint tenancy and tenancy in common. Now there's others depending on the state you're in, but we all have to know, regardless of what state you're in, tenancy in common and joint tenancy. Okay? See, tenancy in common, a lot of you guys are writing, no right of survivorship, because that's what you're memorized. But there's something else as well. There's a unity that exists when you have a tenancy in common. What is that unity? What do you guys think? There's a unity of write it in any time. Possession. Nice job, Krista. Possession. See, with joint tenancy, there's more than just possession. There's 3 more unities totaling 4 unities. Who knows what they are? So a tenancy in common is just possession. With joint tenancy, what do you got? Time, title, interest, and possession. Time, title, interest, and possession. Good. So which one do people normally do? So if you're buying property to somebody else, and I said it's either going to be tenancy or common or joint tenancy, what's the most likely path that will be taken by your average person in the United States? Tenancy in common. Joint tenancy, you are really tied together. Obviously, there's situations people do it, but usually you take the property to tenancy in common. And one of the reasons is what you mentioned before, is when people are writing no right of survivorship. So what does that mean? I get that you guys memorized it, but what does that mean? If I have the property with you and as a tenant in common, what does that right of survivorship mean? What do you guys think? What do you guys think? What does it mean? It means that if I die, it doesn't automatically mean the property goes to you. It could go to my heirs. Flaca and Gordo. I could will it, whereas joint tenancy, you would get the properties. You have the right of survivorship. There we get it. So the other owner has the right of survivorship. Okay. So if you were taking a property with a corporation, how would it be taken out of those 2 options? What do you guys think? If you were taking the property with a corporation, what would it be? Joint? No! With a corporation, it would be tenancy in common because you can't have the right of survivorship with something that doesn't die. So it'd be tenancy in common. Remember, the corporation, you have the right of survivorship, but corporations don't die. They dissolve. Already got that? Can I just have an honest moment with you guys? Because I get this all the time. People say, is this stuff relevant to what you're actually going to do? I can tell you what's going to be relevant and what's not. But here's what I'll tell you. You got to pass. So please don't talk to people who say what you have to study is not relevant. It helps nothing. Because the people who are successful don't care if it's relevant. They just know they need to pass to move on with their career, and that's enough for them. So when I hear people ask me if it's relevant or not, I just say like, well, you know what is relevant? You need the license. And frankly, it's a great barrier to entry. Because all those people who are just like, yeah, you gotta take it. Good, don't take it. Don't practice real estate. Go do what you're gonna do. The people who care don't question why they have to do things. They're just like, I gotta get it done. Let's move on. And that's what I'm trying to do for you here. I know this stuff isn't fun, but we gotta explain it. We're gonna get through it, and you guys are gonna pass, and you'll be rocking. And you'll be selling or doing whatever it is you want to do. So please don't listen to those people who say, it's not relevant what you're actually going to do. I hate those people. Boo! I hate them because they make it less, they're anti-motivators. You always want to be around people who say, what do you got to do? Let's figure out how to do it, period. Okay, let's get to the next question. Can you guys hear me? My website froze, but I can still freelance. You know, like an Eminem in 8 Mile. Go Rabbit, go Rabbit. Can you guys hear me? All right, then I'm just going to freestyle. Drop the mic. Okay, so we talked about tenancy in common and joint tenancy and the right of survivorship. And we talked about Pete and we talked about the estate for years. But we didn't talk about the freehold estates. See, those are less than freehold estates. When you talk about freehold estates, what are we talking about? What are types of freehold estates? What are types of freehold estates? What do you guys think? Fee simple defeasible, fee simple absolute. Good job, guys. And what does fee simple absolute mean? What is fee simple absolute? By the way, fee simple absolute also means estate and fee. Okay, so you sometimes hear fee estate. That's the most absolute form of ownership, but it's still limited. How is it still limited? What do you guys think? By the government powers we discussed when we started today's webinar with Pete, police power, eminent domain, taxation, and escheat. Good. Now, in the less than real estate, you have fee simple absolute, and you also have fee simple defeasible. Who knows what that is? Fee simple defeasible means it has a condition. Guys, remember, a condition is when it's violated, you lose rights to the property. That's why we have covenants and conditions. Covenants have financial penalties. Conditions means you could lose title. How many of you guys didn't know that? Hopefully that was helpful information. If you already knew that, great. If you didn't, hopefully that's a new piece of info that you'll find helpful. So when you violate a condition, it results in loss of title. Okay? So Jasjeet Singh says limitations like alcohol, great example. The property could say if you drink alcohol, you lose the property. That'd be a fee simple defeasible estate because there's that condition. Everybody got that? Nice job. The other type of freehold estate you hear about is something called a life estate. Sounds very profound. A life estate. Who knows what a life estate is? Anybody? 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 A life estate is for the life of another. E2 pour autre vie. Ethan's been studying. Nice job, Ethan. Pour autre vie. Somebody said, do I see my answers? I see, the chat scrolls pretty quickly, so I see as what I can, but it does scroll. I apologize if I miss something you guys say. This is a scrolling chat. So life estate. Do you guys mind if I tell the story of the king and then Sir Lancelot and the knights? Because I think it may help you to bring home this concept. So let me explain the life estate as it originated. You see, there was a king. And the king said to the people, defend me. Please, defend me. And the people said, no, you're a horrible person. We will not defend you. You're terrible. Said, defend me, and I will make you wealthy beyond your wildest dreams. You see, back then in medieval times, money wasn't worth much. But land, I tell you, was worth everything. So the king said, you defend me, and you will have land, and I will call you Sir blah, blah, blah of Bigsby, or whatever it is. And say, all right, cool. Got the land? I'll defend you. Awesome. The king said, not so fast. You have that land. But if I die, you have nothing. See, you will be the holder of the life estate. And I'll call you a knight. The knights of the round tables were formed. They all had land. And they defended the king because as long as the king was alive, they were landowners. But one day, one of the knights died while they were trying to defend the king. What happened to that land? What happened to that land? What do you guys think? So the knight died in his effort to defend the king. So what happened to the land? It reversion. Nice job, Krista. So it went back to the king. That's called reversionary rights. Everybody got that? Write that down. Reversionary rights. Okay? So it went back to the king. All good. And the king would allocate to somebody else and make the same deal. But then one day, the king dies. The knight did not do his job. Now where does the property go? Now where's the property go? What do you guys think? Now the property can't go to the knight. He didn't do his job. It goes to the prince, the next in line to the throne. And they have what's called remainder. Estate and remainder. Now, obviously, this may not be the best example of modern times, but we all want to pass the exam, and I think it helps. Frankly, the more realistic modern examples, kind of confusing. This is a little simpler. So in that story about the king and the knight, you have the grantor of the life estate, the holder of the life estate, remainderment interest, and reversionary interest. So remember that story, and hopefully it'll help you pass your real estate exam. Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is types of leases. So there's different types of leases when you guys study for the real estate exam. You have a gross lease, a percentage lease. What else is there? A sandwich lease. Yum. And you have a net lease. Out of those, which is the most common? So when you rent a property to go live somewhere, you pay the landlord the same amount every month. What's that called? That's called a gross lease. Good. That's your standard lease. What's a percentage lease? What's a percentage lease? What do you guys think? A percentage lease is when you pay based upon the money coming in. So that's more for commercial properties, like when you see a strip mall or something. Nice job, Angelina. What's a net lease? Who knows what a net lease is? A net lease is when the tenant pays for things like taxes, insurance, and maintenance. Tax, insurance, and maintenance. Good. And a sandwich lease is also known as just subletting. So if you haven't heard the word sandwich, just think of subletting. It's when the lessee is also the lessor. They're in the middle. Remember the OREE rule. Lessee, vendee, optionee, grantee, give me property, makes me happy. Lessor, vendor, optionor, grantor, giver, proprietor for your pleasure. EE receives, OR gives. And when you're subletting, you're doing both. You're in the middle. And that's why it's called a sandwich lease, because you're in the middle, like a sandwich. Yum. All right, guys, I hope this was helpful today. If you enjoyed it, click the thumbs up button on the bottom. I'd appreciate any positivity. I have feelings. I like a kind word too, or a kind thumbs up. In fact, you know what? I know this stuff is boring and it's difficult to pass. If you guys just want me to give you the answers to the exam, just PayPal me money and I'll send it to you. Just send me a message at, just send me PayPal at Joe at you big cheater. I'm not actually giving you money.com. What? You crazy? I'm not doing that. How many of you guys are about to write down my email? Shame on you. And you would tell your kids, like, don't cheat. And then you'd be like, shh, don't look at mommy and daddy. We're getting some answers so we can get paid. How many of you guys honestly started to write down my email? Joe at, okay, right? Some of you guys are still right now be like, wait, is he serious or kidding? I'm not sure. I'm kidding. I'm not. Don't send me PayPal money. I'm not going to be like sending you answers on WhatsApp or something. All right, guys. I hope you have an amazing day. You can find me on Instagram at Joe Juter there. It's my personal Instagram, or the Prep Agent Instagram is like that right there. All right. Have an amazing day, guys. Adios, adios, clase terminó. Adios, adios, clase terminó. Adios, adios, the clase terminó. Adios, adios, la clase terminó. Woo. Thanks, guys. You're the best. Thanks, Lorena. Right back at you.